Welcome back to the channel where we lift the curtain on the stories the world tried to overlook, where quiet perseverance turns into undeniable power, and where dignity meets destiny in the most unexpected ways. Today's story is about a man named Elijah Carter, a man who didn't walk into rooms looking for attention, but left them forever changed. A man they tried to ignore until the President of the United States made sure the whole world paid attention. 6:45 a.m. sharp. The auditorium of Lincoln Preparatory Academy hummed with anticipation. It was career day, the kind of event where futures begin forming behind wide eyes and polished shoes. Young students filed in, blazers too big, ties awkwardly knotted, notebooks in hand. They didn't know the world yet. Not really, but you could see the hope in them, the hunger. On stage, local professionals lined up, lawyers in tailored suits, tech CEOs wearing the latest smartwatches, financial advisors who could speak stock tickers like a second language. And then, off to the side, stood a man in a brown corduroy jacket, worn boots, and a calm presence that didn't need to announce itself. That was Elijah Carter, 34, software engineer, community mentor, self-taught coder, and the only black man on that stage. He wasn't flashy. He wasn't loud. He didn't have a PR team or a media kit. What he had was a worn leather folder filled with notes and a life lived in the margins, fighting to earn every line of his resume. The principal stepped forward, mic in hand, and began the introductions. Each speaker got a warm welcome, applause, a few cheers from their former students. But when Elijah's name was called, something shifted. The claps were softer, quieter. His bio, arguably the most impressive of them all, was read quickly, almost like a formality. Some of the adults on stage barely looked up. One man, a tech CEO, even turned away as Elijah extended his hand. A smirk, a shrug, the unspoken question, "You?" Really? Elijah noticed. Of course he noticed. You always do when you've had to fight to be seen. But he didn't flinch. He stood his ground, knowing exactly what kind of room he was in. He also knew who was watching. A young black boy in the second row, eyes wide, back straight, watching him like he was the only person on that stage who looked like someone from his block, from his world. The presentations began. Buzzwords flew across the room like confetti. Equity round, IPO exit strategy, diversified portfolios. Students nodded, mostly confused. Some adults grinned at their own reflections. Then Elijah stepped forward. No slides, no video clips, just his voice. And that's all he needed. "I didn't go to Stanford," he began. "Didn't intern at Google. Didn't even touch a computer until I was 17. The room stilled, not out of boredom, but attention, real attention. "I learned to code in a public library, between my dishwashing shifts, after school, alone, with a manual 3 editions out of date. Today, I run a nonprofit that teaches kids just like me, how to write code, build apps, and take back their futures." The students leaned in. That young boy in the second row, eyes shining. I've been mistaken for the janitor, the assistant, the intern. I've watched rooms go silent when I entered. I've had ideas stolen, my hand ignored, my presence questioned. But every time, I kept building, because they can't erase what I've made. The applause? Not polite, not forced. It roared. The students rose, cheered, whistled. But some of the men on stage, they didn't clap, didn't smile. That same CEO, still seated, arms crossed, jaw tight. After the speeches, the speakers mingled with students. Elijah was surrounded, question after question, selfie after selfie. Dozens of kids wanted to know more, wanted to know how. But the other speakers, they huddled together, comfortable, laughing among themselves. Elijah approached. Again. Hey, I'd love to connect. Maybe find ways to collaborate. One man took a sip of coffee and walked away. Another offered a smile as fake as the watch on his wrist. The CEO simply muttered, "Keep doing your thing," and turned his back. Elijah stood there, not angry, just tired. Then he left. Quietly. No drama. No mic drop. Just a silent nod to the janitor by the door, the only one who made him feel human that morning. What Elijah didn't know was that someone else had been in that auditorium, not listed on the program, not in the front row, but sitting quietly in the very back, baseball cap pulled low, was President Jalen Marcus, the first black president of the United States. He wasn't supposed to be there. No press, no announcement. He was just being a dad, checking in on his son, Malik. Malik was that young boy in the second row, the one who watched Elijah like his future depended on it. And President Marcus? He saw it all. The handshake that never came, the stiff smiles, the speech, the roar of applause, the rejection that followed. And he remembered 2 days later. Elijah was back at work. Same corner office in his tech hub, same second-hand desk, same faulty Wi-Fi. Lunch? Leftover lo mein in a paper box. His phone rang. Unknown number. He nearly ignored it. "Elijah Carter?" the voice asked. "Yeah. Please hold. For the President of the United States." He laughed, thought it was a joke. Then came the voice. That voice. "Mr. Carter," President Marcus began. "My son was at Lincoln Prep. Said your speech moved him. Said it made him feel seen." Elijah said nothing. "Couldn't. I was there, too," the president continued. "And I saw what happened. I believe the world should see what happens next." 3 weeks later, Elijah Carter walked through the gates of the White House. Same boots, same corduroy jacket, same quiet presence. He wasn't here to impress. He was here because his work had already spoken louder than any resume ever could. A press conference was called. The president stepped onto the podium. "True leadership," he said, "doesn't always wear a suit. Sometimes it wears boots. Sometimes it builds without permission. And sometimes it teaches us more than any institution ever could." Then he turned, looked at Elijah, and extended his hand. The cameras exploded. "They refuse to shake his hand," the president said. "But I will, because this man is exactly what America needs more of." 1 year later, President Marcus returned to Lincoln Prep. The photo went viral. The handshake heard around the world. From ignored to honored. The men who'd turned their backs, their silence didn't age well. Their companies were called out, their hiring practices questioned. Meanwhile, Elijah, his inbox flooded. Offers, awards, TED Talks, Ivy League invitations. He declined most of them. Instead, Elijah poured the spotlight into his community. His nonprofit grew tenfold. New laptops, more instructors, summer coding camps, workshops in neighborhoods that the city had long forgotten. This time, Elijah stood beside him as keynote speaker. The auditorium roared like he was a headlining artist. Malik, front row, beaming, and one of the same business leaders from before approached Elijah after the event, nervous, sweating. "Mr. Carter, I misjudged you." Elijah looked at him, not with anger, but with clarity. "You didn't misjudge me. You just refused to see me. There's a difference." Elijah turned back to the students. He wasn't here for revenge, wasn't here for applause. He was here to open doors. And this time, no one could close them. They refused to shake the hand of a man they thought didn't belong. But when the president did, the world finally took notice. Because sometimes history begins not with fireworks, but with a hand you refuse to take. And this was the story of a man who didn't let rejection define him, who never stopped building even when no one believed in him, until they had no choice but to look up. Let this be your reminder. Never underestimate the quiet ones, because the hand you ignore today might be the one that holds the key to tomorrow's change. Stay seen, stay strong, stay building. We'll see you next time.